On this episode of Bytes and Banter, we explore the recent Building Future Forward Tech Teams report by Robert Half with Matt Deneroff, Vice President of Technology and Digital DC Metro Market.
Hey, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
When we were looking at the report, we saw a couple different key areas that we wanted to explore a little bit deeper with you, Matt. Before we do that, can you share a little bit more how you got into your role? How did you get into the position there at Robert Half?
Yeah, appreciate that question, Daniel. So I've been with Robert Half for about a decade now. And when I started with Robert Half, I started as an account executive in our Baltimore office. And, over the years, I, kind of progressed through my role. It's always been client centric. I really love interacting with, the clients of Robert Half in a variety of industries. And over time, it's brought me to the DC market. And, to today, I manage our recruiting teams, our business development teams, focused around contract placements, consulting work, and direct hire placement.
Thank you for sharing that. In some of the key things that you were mentioning was helping people with different types of candidates. So what type of temperature are you seeing out there when it comes to the tech skills that organizations are looking for? Are we seeing a shortage? Are we seeing particular skills that people are going after?
Yeah, well, we're in an interesting time right now as far as technology goes. I think, the words AI or letters AI, mean a lot more today than they did a couple of years ago to a lot of people, because it's, you turn on a news channel, all you hear about is artificial intelligence going to take over the world, right? And so I think that we're seeing a strong demand and interest from clients and candidates alike in that area. And as far as a tech skills shortage, I'd say we're seeing a shift. This is what, when I think about technology and major shifts, we had the internet, right? The creation of the internet years ago. We had cloud, we had mobile, and now we're in this age of AI. And so there's definitely an increasing demand for AI skill sets, and that's skill sets that can analyze data. You think about some of, just at a basic level, some of the skill sets are using these LLM tools that are out there, and that's impacting not just IT workers, but just people in, businesses, up and down the organization. So there is a definite shortage, to your question, there is a shortage in some of these skill set areas. And I think it's going to be really important for companies to be deliberate in how they upskill and train their current employees, and how they structure, job descriptions for the workforce of the future to capture some of those skills.
Yeah. When I was looking over the report, I saw 87% of technology leaders were struggling to find the skilled candidates. And you just mentioned they may need to kind of refine their job descriptions. Are there any key things to call out when it comes to some of those long-term skills that people are maybe missing on those job descriptions?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's really just analyzing your current talent, within your organization and what the gaps are, in those skill sets. And, in many cases we see, companies bringing in external consultants to help kind of create governance and strategy or define position descriptions. I find myself sitting with, customers kind of going over what they, how they could tweak job descriptions to attract, the latest and greatest. And so I think there's a variety of strategies, leveraging, external support in the beginning, phase, I think is really important, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and to have someone, an objective set of eyes come in and, help with gap analysis can be really beneficial for companies.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And we've mentioned AI several times. So when we're looking at the evolution or the integrations of AI in all these different organizations, how can organizations effectively scale with AI and even maintain some of the kind of governance that they need?
Yeah, I think that's the question that a lot of people are looking to answer, right? I think you just said the key word is governance. I think before you can scale AI, you have to make sure that you have the appropriate, governance in place. In many cases, I'm seeing organizations create task forces that will kind of, be tasked, for lack of a better word, with helping to identify where there's a use case for AI, and then making sure that they understand, any liabilities and policies that should be in place before they actually go and deploy technologies across the organization. And I've heard stories from some clients where, like, a year or two ago, that's really gung ho, and they start having AI tools go out to the work population, and then they had to scale it back and say, whoa, let's turn that one off until we get some governance in place. So I think before you can scale, you really have to understand the impact it has on your organization. And so that's something that I'm hearing a lot about.
Yeah, and even kind of going on top of governance, thinking about security, thinking about cybersecurity, and how fast paced that arena has become. I think from some of my conversations with CISOs and CSOs, that is a huge priority for them to continue to leverage either AI or the skill sets to protect their organization. Is there anything that you guys are seeing and that you can share from the report that kind of explains a little bit more some of the ways people are leveraging the tools, the AI tools, to help be protective of their organizations and help mitigate risk?
Well, yeah, I think, some of the key points would be, you want to ensure that the tools and technology benefit your company and are not creating more risk. And so that kind of goes back into that governance and oversight piece, making sure that you have the proper controls in place when you are deploying these AI tools. But, you talk about cybersecurity and AI, and we're seeing more and more cybersecurity tools that are leveraging AI themselves to help kind of create automation and enhance cybersecurity. And so I think it's twofold. It's one, you do want to make sure that from a security standpoint, you're understanding the implications of deploying a tool so that you're not creating risk that you don't want. But on the other hand, there's a lot of these security products now that have AI capabilities and are being built, they're AI driven. And so that's also enhancing the, cybersecurity posture for a lot of organizations as well. So I think that's an area that's going to continue to be looked at really closely, and will be evolving, as time goes on.
Yeah. I know a lot of organizations want to continue to prevent themselves from being socially engineered or have some type of gap that just causes millions, billions of dollars being lost. I love those different points that you made around some of the ways to utilize the tools that are out there now. And when we're talking about tools, we know that there is also another obstacle that we're facing in the IT realm, and that leans more on technical debt. And when it comes to that, one of the things that I read in the report was 55% of tech leaders are identifying that technical debt is one of their major obstacles right now. Tell me a little bit more. What are maybe some methods, innovative methods that could help reduce some of that burden?
Yeah, it's interesting that I saw the 55% stat as well. I thought it would be 100% because, frankly, when I talk with, the CIOs, CTOs, IT directors, technical debt always comes up in conversation. I think it's something that's constantly, on tech leaders' minds. It's a growing problem. And really, like, the approach to mitigate it is, rather than trying to tackle everything at once, just chipping away at things a little bit at a time during the normal, work schedules. automated testing and continuous deployment also help catch problems and can help teams roll things out with a little bit more confidence. Moving to the cloud is a great way to modernize and avoid huge disruptions. As you kind of tackle your technical debt. So and kind of going along with the topic of today's conversation about skill set, right? I think bringing in the right type of talent that can help with digital modernization, digital transformation efforts at an organization that can really help execute a plan to mitigate the technical debt.
Yeah, I think that's key too. Thinking about just some of the legacy systems that I know are out there in environments, let's say AS400, maybe even some version of Lotus Notes, or even some Novell type of integration that is still kind of out there as a legacy system. What are maybe some things that people can do to help with their business continuity and kind of prevent this excessive costs that they're maybe spending every year because of that legacy system needs so much work, so much development to keep up?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the phased approach, right? It's taking a phased approach to the modernization. You do small updates over time that'll help with disruption to your service, but also you kind of minimize the cost or make them a little bit more manageable. Two, using cloud-based solutions that makes it easier to scale and to modernize. And then three, like bringing in, like I mentioned earlier, bringing in external consultants, can really help to put a good plan in place. You're bringing in people with specialized skill that in many cases understand your legacy tech, but they also understand, the new tech and the future state that you're aiming for. And they can be super helpful in helping an organization execute that. And then also sometimes leaving a little bit of institutional knowledge behind to the current staff so that they can help, help upskill the company's internal staff who may have been maintaining the AS400 and now, will be, administering a newer system. Yes. And then, kind of the theme of our conversation has been all around skills and the talent aspects of people that you may need for the future of your organization as you continue to build out your strategic plans and look at those 1, 2, 3 year roadmaps that you may have for your organization. How can technology leaders also adapt some of the different training strategies that may be out there to keep up with the AI and all the cloud types of changes, automation demands? What are maybe some strategies that you can share with our listeners? Yeah. Well, I think the important thing to note is it's not a one size fits all strategy. I think each organization really needs to understand their current state and what they're going for. And I think you really need a blend of upskilling your current employees, as well as in some cases shifting your mindset. Really, a lot of this is like a mindset shift in the way that you need to approach tech with these newer technologies out there. So upskilling your current staff. So whether that's sending them to conferences to allow them to learn, whether that's paying for certifications that they can take, with their free time, that works great. And obviously I'm a little biased here, but I think bringing in an expert from the outside, really pays dividends because you get the expertise. They're going to come in and execute on business problems for you, but they're also going to train your team and get them to open their minds on how things are done with other organizations, so that, having a consultant come in that's seen multiple environments is often very beneficial for internal staff who are looking to learn, right? They've got their heads down every day, just working for their company. They don't always have the time that they wish they had to pick up new skill sets and learn about new tools and software that's out there. So We see a great benefit to organizations that do have, kind of a flexible approach to staffing where they can scale up during certain periods and then scale down and lean on their internal teams. So it's really finding that sweet spot for your organization is the biggest strategy that I think helps.
I love what you mentioned there, Matt, about bringing other people in to help you with your initiatives, with your projects. I think it's a great way for leaders to have some blind spots identified potentially, because we look at things in a certain way. And as we look through our lens and others look through their lens, we may find some fantastic solutions for that long-term goal in our strategic plans. Matt, another question that I have is around resource planning, specifically around ERP systems. It looks like from the report that there's a rise in expertise needed for companies. What are some things that they can do to help assess and acquire the right solution for their modernization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate that, Daniel. So in our report, 75% of tech leaders reported that their demands for those skill sets in ERP were rising. Many times when a company is modernizing and they're implementing an ERP system or upgrading one, they'll have an implementation partner that's doing a lot of the heavy lift. And each organization approaches how they're going to, support that internally, slightly differently, right? In many cases, we see that internal stakeholders will be involved in the implementation. And so the companies will sometimes backfill those operational responsibilities with flexible staffing models so that way their core stakeholders are involved in the project work. And there's also times where there's niche skill sets needed as part of an ERP implementation, and they'll augment their internal staff with temporary resources that can come in that are, highly skilled and experts in the given ERP system that they're implementing. In fact, I think over the last couple of years, our teams locally in the DC market have done a ton of that, whether it's, staffing a project manager that's a liaison between an implementation partner and, the organization implementing the product, or if it's just doing some, supplemental post go live support. There's really, an array of, ways that you can leverage, contractors and consultants as you're doing that, because just the nature of those things, it's project oriented. And so the internal teams often, need that support. And so, I think that's a big part of what's causing the demand for the skill set is that that's just a project-based, need that a lot of organizations have. So ERP is hot.
Yeah. They can be very complex. I've been part of multiple projects before, and just knowing the right kind of mixture to be successful is key. So different sizes, different solutions for everyone, just making sure that you have the right blend, right stakeholders in there. I love those suggestions. And there was a bigger theme in this report that I really enjoyed, and it was around being future ready. Our episode just before this was with Sarah, and she was talking about change leaders and creating change-enabled teams. Tell me a little bit more about, the next gen and tech. What are some of the things that leaders need to foster in more?
Yeah, I think, the first word that comes to mind is flexibility, I think, and versatility, right? I think, in order to lead into the next gen of something, you have to have an open mind on how you can re-engineer processes and workflows in your organization, leveraging these new tools. And so I think one of the biggest things that tech leaders can foster is this kind of forward-looking employee, so allowing employees to talk about tools and software that they see in the market and want to experiment with. We've heard about these kind of like pilot projects where companies are tech leaders are allowing their staff to allocate a portion of their time to, kind of future forward ideas that can push their business forward. And it makes for a really engaged workforce, some really creative ideas. and in some cases, things that you can actually implement in the business. So I just think it's a
I love that
mindset shift. Yeah.
Yeah, hackathons. There's other types of programs that people have put into their organization to not only be able to see some of these creative spaces that people can work in, but also help with those innovations, those long-term solutions that may not have been thought of in the recent years. With everything evolving within the tech team space, what we're seeing is that there's a combination of key stuff. There's company culture, there's getting your business outcomes, and then helping with your digital transformation efforts. What are some other hints or tips or tricks that those leaders should be looking at in that space?
Well, I think tech is no longer a function, right? It's a core driver of collaboration within an organization. It's innovation across an organization. And so all these tools are helping businesses be more agile, be more productive, move faster to support their customers. And so, I just think that the tech leader has to embody that, and that needs to be, kind of their modus operandi, is just this being at the core of this next wave of technology.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Matt, if you could connect with yourself years ago when you first started your career, what's some advice that you would give?
That's a good question. I don't know that I've thought about that one too much. I guess one would be like the hard work will be worth it. And there's going to be times in your career where you have to stay late or get there early, and don't look at that as, some sort of duty, but just look at it as an investment in yourself and in your career. Because I think that, as I look back, on my career, 10 years with Robert Half, it's a lot of those late nights and early mornings are where, you learn great lessons, you connect with great customers, and it's all been worth it over the years. So I think it's just a, work ethic. Like you've got to grind in whatever career you're in, and it'll pay dividends later in your career. So
thank you so much for joining us on Bytes and Banter.
Thank you, Daniel.